FM.
On the other side of my screen is Callum Maclean. He's the strength and conditioning coach, I believe. Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And we've known each other when I was on the HPA at Solent, and he joined Solent for the year 2019 to 2020, when he was doing a masters at Solent. So thank you very much for coming on, Callum.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure.
So, as I do with all these podcasts, going back into your young stages, what was your sporting background growing up?
So my sporting background growing up kind of mixed. I tried a lot of different sports, which I think everyone should be doing. My main one was football. Played that in a team in Germany as well. I used to live in Germany. And then I also played volleyball at school competitively, tennis, handball, skiing. I just kind of dabbled into, and I think basketball as well. Yeah, tried a lot of different sports. Football's probably my main passion and I enjoyed it the most. But when I got into towards uni, I started really enjoying playing volleyball. So I played that competitively. And I really enjoyed that. Played mainly as a setter. I wanted to be a hitter, but we didn't really have any players in our team that could pass the ball as well as me. So that's why I played that position, but it worked out quite well. And that's really enjoyable. And I still want to go back to that eventually. Currently, I've torn my ACL playing football 5 weeks ago. So, I'm having to deal with that, which is a different challenge. So playing sport is currently on the back burner, but rehabbing and getting my legs strong again and then finding out if I need surgery or not is going to be the next step. But hopefully I can play sport again because sport is so pivotal in my life. It's every day. Sport has also kind of given me the opportunity to get a job and do something that I enjoy every day, and that doesn't almost feel like it is work, but it is. So it makes it a lot easier, and it doesn't feel like it's something that I'm passionate about, and it comes somewhat easy to me because it's been a part of my kind of DNA from a very young age, and I'm kind of grateful that I can have the opportunity to work now with athletes in their respective sports and support them as much as possible, while also being in sport as much as possible. So yeah, my life is very truly in sport. If I'm not working in sport, I'm watching sport. So yeah.
Well, I'm not gonna break my ACL. Don't worry about that.
Yes.
So with the playing side of things, you're growing up in schools, was it A levels, GCSEs? Were they sport related? Subjects you took? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So from basically, because I went to school in Germany, that's where I was brought up. Even then, I wasn't very academically inclined. I was probably more rebellious towards teaching and listening. So it was more, could I just play sport? And it generally was, football was all on my mind. All I wore was football clothes. Some people used to say to me at school, why do you only wear football tops? But that was all I cared about. Football was literally all I cared. And at school, PE was probably my favorite subject, without a doubt. And I think as well, sport gives you so many life skills that people underappreciate and take for granted. And I think there's not especially in the UK, there's not a big enough emphasis on sport. I think a lot of people are lacking it. A lot of people are getting into unhealthier habits, into lazier habits. Potentially also thinking of you don't really have to work for it because social media glamorizes it. in a shortcut approach, but we all know to achieve greatness, it takes time and due diligence. But yeah, so then from school and then GCSEs, did GCSE PE, and then I did a BTEC in sport, level 2 and 3 in exercise science, and then went to not Southampton. I went to St Mary's University in Twickenham, and did my undergrad degree in strength and conditioning, and then had a 1 year gap, and then decided to embark on my masters at Solent, and that's when I met you, and then COVID happened. So yeah.
Brilliant. So were you born in Germany, or were you just brought up there?
No, I was born in the UK, but then at a very young age, because of my dad's job at the time, we moved to Germany. I was about 4 months old, and then lived there till I was 18 or 17, and then did the BTEC route back in the UK, and then uni. So yeah, that's kind of my early years, but always been sports been fundamental to it, and still is.
Yeah. And so you mentioned that you did your Bachelor of Science in Strength and Conditioning Science at St Mary's Uni Twickenham. When I first researched it, I was thinking St Mary's, that sounds familiar, but no, it's another part of the country. That was 2014 to 2018.
Yeah.
So that was a 4 year. So what was that? Was that a gap in between, or?
No, so I kind of decided that I wanted to get more industry experience. So I had the option of like splitting my final year. So I decided to do like half my modules in my third year over 2. So I think it was 6 or 7 modules. So I did the first part in the first year, and then I did the second part with my dissertation in the second. And that enabled me to get a little bit more experience in professional environments, which I'm actually really grateful I did that. But I also think because I split my final year, I got a better grade out of it. So, but that's why it is a 3-year degree, but I just split it in 4.
And so, you did football and sports growing up. What made you want to go to the strength and conditioning and the science sort of side of things then?
Yeah, I think when I was doing my BTEC, it was coming up to doing open day. I was adamant that I wanted to go to university, but I was more like inclined to do coach development or PT. I didn't really know about strength and conditioning at the time. And then one of my tutors actually at college told me about potentially strength and conditioning at St Mary's. So then I just, on the day of the open day, wandered to the open day for the S&C course, really enjoyed what the lecturer at the time had to say. And I kind of, from then, my kind of mindset completely switched, and I was kind of like, I just gravitated to it because I felt like that was the next best thing for me. Obviously, everyone growing up has aspirations of being a professional sportsman or sportswoman. I didn't achieve that for numerous different reasons, but I thought S&C is probably as close as I can get to being still in sport at a high level, potentially. I'm still working towards that. So that's what kind of gravitated towards it. And I enjoy the training side of things as well. So that kind of, I thought was interesting. It was something I was kind of exposed to quite late. I think I was 19 or 20. I know a lot of other coaches are exposed to it a lot sooner than me. But that's how kind of I found out about it, and then I've been doing strength conditioning ever since.
Yeah, and as you mentioned, there was a gap. So after your Bachelor of Science, you took a bit of a break in between. And let's go through the list of jobs and volunteering that you did in between that time. So, actually, no, so in between your original university degree, 2016, you were strength and conditioning coach at St Mary's Uni. So that was working alongside their athletes, wasn't it?
Yeah, so all like while I was at uni, they were all placement opportunities at St Mary's, Chelsea Foundation, a couple other football clubs. They were all unpaid internships per se, but all kind of started my kind of coaching application, or like learned into be in that industry, not just from a textbook. I think people need to put themselves out there and trial and error. Coaching is all about trial and error and then refining it. So that's what I kind of did. And I would strongly encourage anyone that's kind of going along the pathway of becoming a coach in any kind of domain, if it's S&C, technical coaching, performance analysis, to get as much experience as you can, because a textbook will only give you so much. But real life experience, you make. I mean, I've been doing it 3 years now. I still make a lot of mistakes day to day, but those mistakes also make better things come to life as well. Eventually, it might take time, but it does usually work out for the better.
Absolutely. And in 16 to 17, you were an intern at Chelsea. How did you get into Chelsea Foundation? How did it all come about then?
Again, that was just through uni. And that was working with that was my kind of first S&C experience. Was working actually with the cerebral palsy football team. So something completely different. Obviously, there's different challenges with cerebral palsy compared to normal population, I'd say, or just I don't know how to say it correctly, but politically correct. But yeah, people that aren't disabled basically. But it was a great learning opportunity for me. Kind of also like watching from the outside, just seeing how awesome like people are and what capabilities they have, even if they have a disability, either mentally or physically. And with these guys, they were between the ages of 9 and 14, so they were like, obviously it was more handicapped, but they're still playing some unbelievable football. And seeing them, even if they had limitations, they were still able to play the game that we all love. But yeah, it was also a real learning curve for me, because it wasn't just what we learned at uni was completely different to that population that I was working within. So I really had to kind of figure stuff out, and yeah, explore and again make mistakes. But I think that population really served me well, and it made me more adaptable as a human and as a coach. So yeah, that was just, again, through university at the time, St Mary's had really good links with different sport organisations, and it's one of the reasons why I went to that university in the first place.
Absolutely. And in the same sort of time frame, 16 to 17 again, you were again as an intern at AFC Wimbledon with an academy scientist.
Yeah. So
yeah.
Sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, that was kind of, again, that was more now working in academy domain with potentially some footballers they're probably like under 18s now, probably give or take. Again, slightly different role to what Chelsea was at, but again, it was more very minimal in terms of the impact you can have in terms of my role nowadays. But again, it was still learning the trenches, finding out best ways to incorporate some kind of S&C kind of components into a pitch-based session, because it was all pitch-based. I think a lot of initial thoughts potentially is the perception that S&C is just in the gym, but a lot of it actually is on the pitch or on the court. So again, those opportunities were just there for me.
And then 17 to 18, which will you went on to Fulham Football Club, doing an academy strength and conditioning intern as well. So again, other part of Chelsea. So that must be quite an interesting thing going for their rivals.
Yeah, To be fair, it wasn't really. I think I left Chelsea by that point, and I think, again, it wasn't. It was just more as a student, really. You're not really working in the competitive element of that. Those internships are purely just getting experience, hands-on experience, compared to what potentially people want it to be. But yeah.
Yeah, and then 18 to 19 was the break. So 17 and 18 again, you went back to St Mary's Uni to be a strength and conditioning coach intern again. So again, it was so you went back to your previous um university for that. And then 18 to 19, which was the break that you had in between, strength and conditioning coach at the Athletic Performance Academy. So that's a business in itself. So how was that? Because that sounds like a very interesting development.
Yeah, working for APA was good. Good opportunity. It was my first kind of paid S&C opportunity. I still have good relationships with the owner of APA. I recently went to one of his development courses, so we caught up, which was great. But yeah, it was kind of self-employed, learning through APA's name, but just again getting experience working with different range of athletes, youth population, and then just actually getting paid for something that you do was quite enjoyable. But still wasn't probably where I wanted it to be. That's why, and I think as I was only part-time with APA, I kind of wanted to be full-time in S&C. But at the time, I applied for a lot of jobs, and the guy said, "Yeah, your experience, your practical experience is great. However, for the job application, you need to have a master's degree." So that's why I kind of then decided that, well, if I want to have a job full-time in S&C, I need to do the master's. So that's why I decided to do the master's. And then thankfully, I did the internship with the HBA, which was great. And obviously, Solent paid for my master's as well. So that was an added bonus. Why just basically the HBA and getting a free master's is purely why I picked Solent. And then, that was probably up to that point was probably my greatest kind of coaching experience. I think all the internships before, the ones we just spoke about, and even APA was kind of a stepping stone. HBA gave me greater exposure to individual athletes like yourself, Pete, and some of the basketball guys, and obviously some of the team sports that I worked with as well. I think I worked with football and ladies basketball as well. So that was good. And obviously at Solent, you've got all the world-class kind of facilities, equipment that you need in the training environment, where you can put all the stuff that you learn in theory into practice. So that kind of gave me more confidence to program and deliver what I deemed at the time a good strength and conditioning program to support the athletes at Solent. And then then COVID happened.
Yes.
And that was an interesting one as well, obviously, for a lot of different reasons. Finishing your master's remotely again, that kind of changed my idea of what I wanted to do my dissertation on. Initially, I wanted to do my dissertation on GPS. And because I didn't have access to GPS, I had to do a different study. I think it was something related to COVID, but it's 3 years ago. I genuinely can't remember now what it's on. But yeah, thankfully I managed to do all right in my master's. Some of the topics were quite enjoyable, some were not so. And that's, again, I think it was a different challenge. Everyone wasn't sure what was going on. So the online learning was potentially a little bit more, potentially a little bit less. The content was probably, if I look back at it, it could have been better, could have been more in detail potentially. And maybe a bit more challenging, but at the time it was quite challenging. But everyone looks at that moment in time that is challenging, but then when you reflect on it, it was quite easy, the journey. And then from there, luckily, there weren't a lot of jobs popping about. but luckily I managed to get a job at St Albans Boys School, and then that was good. Again, got more experience in terms of coaching, different level of athletes in a school environment. Kind of again still restricted because it was still COVID time, so a lot of the stuff we would do, we didn't actually have any sports fixtures that year just because of COVID and the interaction with other schools. But yeah, so that was kind of that opportunity, and then I decided to leave St Albans, and then I went to Oaklands College a year later, and that's where I am right now, and that's probably my best kind of job at the moment, the most enjoyable out of all. It's taken a long time to get to Oaklands because St Albans again was part-time, but Oaklands is full-time now. So it took me probably 2 years after getting out of uni properly to get a full-time job in S&C. But where I am right now is, really happy and grateful for all the opportunities I had. Some of them, again, weren't as useful, but I think you need to go through some ones that aren't as useful to get to the right one. And that's where I am right now.
Yeah, so you did a new Solent, thank goodness. And you did a master's in sports and exercise. And yeah, it was quite nice actually having you rather than having Rob or Dan or whoever. So it's quite nice to have you, Smithy. And it was quite a good time. And so you left Solent, you went on to, as you mentioned, the St Albans School with the athletic development coach. You pretty much enjoyed that. You mentioned that. But actually, in 2020, after Solent, you did an ALTIS in sports and exercise as well. So I can't quite figure out what the initials are standing for, but could you expand on that?
Oh, I did what? Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah, okay, 2020, after Solent, you joined the ALTIS, you got a certificate.
Oh, right, yeah. Okay, yeah. So Altis is a company that specializes in speed development. And I think my undergrad degree was really heavily focused on the weight room. But my kind of coaching preference now is more on speed development, energy system development. And I wasn't really exposed to that much, and I just kind of decided to. It's an online course. They provide loads of courses online, and they're kind of the forefront of what speed is. So I think I did that while I was doing my masters as well to keep me ticking on. So yeah, that's kind of those kind of courses have actually helped a lot. So yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense now you've said that. And then you went to St Albans, and then now you are at St Anderson coach at Oaklands College, netball, basketball, rugby as well.
Yeah.
And something else, but I've forgotten. But
girls athletics.
Yeah.
Girls athletics. So yeah.
That's it, yeah. So that must be quite a nice full-time job. You know, you've been there 2 years, 2 years now. So yeah, to be able to get an actual job and still be in that job must be quite nice.
Yeah, no, being at Oaklands has been really good for me in terms of my I can kind of see my coaching processes, thinking, abilities coming to life a bit more. I've got a lot more autonomy than I had at other institutes. That's why this is probably the most enjoyable so far, because I'm allowed to do basically what I deem. I oversee the programs for the sports that you mentioned, so rugby, netball, basketball, and girls athletics. Predominantly spend my time with rugby, so it's men's rugby. Rugby is our biggest program, so we compete in the Ace League. So I spend a fair bit of time with the rugby boys in the morning, both in the gym and on the pitch. So we kind of, boys will have 2 to 3 gym sessions a week. And then they'll also do some kind of speed, change of direction training on the pitch with me, or energy system development, which again, really good to kind of get them ready for their sport. And then they play matches on Wednesday. So it's kind of a challenge in itself, because they play on a Wednesday and then they play probably for their home club, their, like, on the weekend. So you probably get some boys that, and again, these boys have aspirations of potentially playing for a Saracens academy or a different academy. So again, you have some boys that are already on that pathway. We work with different level of abilities as well. You have some very high level abilities and some that are really working towards improving. But yeah, so that's kind of that, and it kind of shifts across the different pathways as well. Work a lot with netball and basketball, again, gym based and court based. So obviously they both play on the court, so there's different kind of physical characteristics that we need to look into, different kind of training principles as well. Female netball players to male basketball players, again, there's different challenges and obstacles that you need to take into consideration, but again, really enjoyable. And then athletics is just a completely different beast, because it's again a different sport to team-based sports. It's an individual-based sport, so again, you've got to take all those things into considerations. But all those 4 sports keep me very busy. I've got over 150 athletes to look after, so it's a lot of individuals that keep me on my toes. Sometimes I forget their names because there's so many. So it's expanded from HBA, where I had 6 individual athletes, to where now I have 150 to look after. But yeah, it's really enjoyable. They're all between the age of 16 and 18. So that's kind of where I work predominantly in youth sport. But yeah, it's definitely good. We're currently on half term, which is nice. Hence why I've been able to luckily jump on your podcast. But yeah, it keeps me busy, definitely. And we also have loads of fixtures and stuff. But yeah, it's really enjoyable. And the students are actually really engaging, happy to cooperate and train, which is what we really ask for.
And alongside that, you started this last year, up until now. You also are working for Amersham and Chiltern Rugby Football Club as a first team, for the first team strength and conditioning coach.
Yeah,
as well.
So alongside Oakland's, which is my main full-time job, I got asked to support, or Amersham basically needed an S&C coach. Their previous guy left, so someone asked me if I would be willing to be, or if I was interested to come along and help out. And then that kind of started a dialogue, and that kind of worked into working there on a part-time basis. So I do that Tuesday, Thursday evenings, because obviously these are men now. So I work with men's first team Amersham. We play in tier 6 of rugby. So there's loads of tiers. I don't even know how many tiers there is, but that's 6 tiers below the Premiership, which is the highest. And again, different challenges. And then obviously a support on match days as well. So we play on a Saturday. We just had our 7th game in a row, or 8th, 7th. We've played 7 games. Now we've got a week off, and then we go into a busy schedule just before Christmas. So that again, leading into kind of a great atmosphere and kind of good environment to again learn and coach. Kind of put myself in a position where I'm constantly evolving and learning. Again, as well, working with different populations. Youth athletes are completely different to adult athletes, if you want to take it for that. I'd say sometimes a bit more diva-like. And again, it comes with its challenges. All the guys that work they work as well. So they have busy lives as well, just like everyone else. And then we have to try and best negotiate how we can train them while keeping them fit and healthy on the pitch. And that's what I kind of do. I kind of help with the return to play. So if anyone's coming back from injury, that's kind of one of my big things. And then just keeping the boys fit and healthy for Saturdays. And then with the ambition of getting promoted this year, we came second last year, so the ambition is to come first this year.
Fingers crossed. And so it's been quite a nice contrast working with 16 to 18-year-olds and then working with an actual adult group. And it's been quite a nice contrast between the two.
Yeah, no, I really enjoy it. And it's, you kind of have to be different in your approach. I think you can't expect a 16, 18-year-old to do the same as as a 21-year-old bloke. But some similarities definitely come cross paths. But yeah, it's really enjoyable. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps me busy. And yeah, rugby again, because it's in rugby. I spend an awful lot of time in rugby now. And then obviously I had pre-season as well. So I think it's been like 15 weeks on the bounce of rugby. And now we've got a week off. So it'll be nice to have like a week off to recharge and then go into what's I think an 8-week block before we go for Christmas. So yeah. But yeah, it's good.
Yeah, good. And because the title of this is Rugby Football Club, so I'm assuming you only do the rugby side and don't do any football side.
Yeah, not just football side. I think a lot of rugby clubs actually put football in. I don't know why. I think in Australia or New Zealand they call it footy, but I might be completely wrong. You might have to look that up. But yeah, I didn't actually know that. I thought it was just Amersham and Chiltern Rugby Club.
Oh, okay.
Maybe, I don't know. You it sounds like you've done your homework.
I've done the homework on you, not on anything else. Maybe I should have done. Being a journalist, I should have done my research, shouldn't I? But no, so that's the two jobs you're doing now. And so the future goals, future for you, obviously you're still working with those two, sporting with the and conditioning, coaching side of things. Was the main when you started doing your strength and conditioning coach journey years ago? What was the end dream goal for you when you first started? Was there a particular sort of job you wanted, or?
I always thought that I would work in football.
Okay.
I think because being what I think, football was my main sport. So that's why. And then when I was at university, especially at St Mary's, I was very active in football. So I kind of thought that's a natural progression. But currently, I'm predominantly spending my time in rugby. Again, I never played actually rugby. Well, when I was growing up, rugby wasn't that big in Germany. So I don't really know. I think when I was 9 years ago, when I started my educational journey in strength and conditioning, I would have said working in a first team football environment. But now I don't really know. Honestly, don't know. Just try and progress. Take it step by step, really. I'm really trying not to get overly wound up with where I want to be or who I want to work for. I just kind of take in its stride. Opportunities will hopefully present themselves. But yeah, I think either sport. I think there's other sports potentially that I'd be interested to work in. Tennis is one of them as well. Tennis, ice hockey as well. There's loads of different sports. So I haven't really got a definitive answer about that. But yeah, wherever it takes me.
Yeah, so you're just taking a bit of opportunity as it comes, or wanting to progress and develop before you actually get into some sort of niche, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if a niche. I don't like the term specialist. I think that term winds me. It actually winds me up on a personal note. I think no one knows everything. So why are you classing yourself as a specialist or an expert? You can know a lot about it without a doubt, but I just think for me personally, it's a bit of a pretentious name. So I'd rather not be niche down into one thing. I think you can become quite complacent as well if you just niche down on one thing and then you're very fixated on that mindset. Whereas if you try different avenues, you might be more flexible and rigid, I think. So that's kind of the way I like to view things. But again, that could be open to change. 2 years ago, I might have not said that, but now I'm saying that, and all our kind of the way we view things should evolve as time goes, hopefully.
Yeah. And before you were this open-minded and everything else, you said football was going to be, you thought was going to be a bit part of the journey before you branched out to different ventures. Would you have said there was a particular club you wanted to maybe work for, back then? Not just
I think you know the answer. I mean, well, as I'm a United fan, obviously United would be the obvious choice, but working in international football or international rugby again, but it's something that's not on my radar right now. I just think I want to keep evolving as a coach and just kind of seeing what happens. You never know. I might not go down the route of coaching. I might go down the route of rehabbing. Who knows? I think that's why I think it's very good to stay kind of open and flexible in terms of my thinking instead of kind of fixating on a specific goal. I think I used to do that, pardon me, and I don't think it's a healthy option, but that's just my personal view. Some people have that view, and if that keeps them going or that keeps them focused and that works for them, then so be it. But for me, I try not to over fixate on something.
Absolutely. And if you do go down the route of rehab, you can fix yourself, can't you, at the moment with the ACL?
That's currently the plan, mate. That's currently the plan.
And yeah, I mean, I was going to say that you can fix some of Man United's problems as well, actually, if you were over there.
That's a touchy subject. That's a touchy subject.
Yeah, that's a very touchy subject. Yeah, and then so last everything. So, was there anything else you wanted to add to your very long career? I might have slipped in 2 pages here. Is there anything else I wanted to add? Anything I might have missed?
No, I think you got everything. I didn't realise I forgot a lot about what I've done in terms of the early years. The early years, I think, are your foundations, and then you set your kind of your keystones now, hopefully, and then they evolve again. But yeah, I think you've got everything. You've definitely done your research, mate. Definitely done well.
Well, to be fair, I did rely on your LinkedIn. Sounds just relying on your own information.
Yeah. Mate, next time I'll close off my LinkedIn just for you, so you have to find out exactly where I've done things.
Yeah, just make me work harder. Thank you. Yeah. So, but yeah, thank you very much for coming on, Callum.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. It's been good.
Voice. Let's go. Voice FM.